Next article is Article 14. This is an article to appropriate funds for the owner's project manager and the architect for park and recreation facility. You can find it on page 51 of the warrant report. And we have a positive motion from warrant committee member Abby Marble.
We move that the town appropriate $150,000, said sum to be raised on the fiscal year 19 tax levy, to hire an owner's project manager and an architect or other design professional to prepare a feasibility study, including site evaluation, program development, traffic and utility study, and a preliminary cost estimate for a park and recreation facility. Said appropriation be subject to voters' approval of a capital exclusion override pursuant to GL Chapter 59, Section 21C, so-called Proposition 2.5, Paragraph I, 1/2.
Thank you. And a report, please.
All right. Last year, town meeting appropriated $60,000 to fund a programmatic needs study for the Park and Recreation Department. This year, the Park and Recreation Commission is seeking funds to pay for a feasibility study meant to locate the best site for a new facility. This study will also include program development, a traffic and utility study, and preliminary cost estimating. Setting a study in motion now will continue the process but not lock the town into a specific construction timeline. The Park and Recreation Commissioners say their ultimate goal is to deliver excellent programming to Medfield residents of all ages, not just the young. The size and the condition of the 89-year-old FAF Center stifle any thoughts of enhanced programming going forward on that site, they assert, in asking for a new facility. The majority of the Warrant Committee recommends passage.
Thank you. And we have a minority report from Warrant Committee member Jack Wolf.
The full Warrant Committee recognizes the value of Medfield Park and Recs. They do a terrific job here in the town in serving our children and serving some of our adult population. So there is no question that at some point in time, we definitely need a new building. The FAF building is unacceptable. But there is a question about when. There are two options today for location for MPR's new building. One option is up on Medfield State Hospital property. And we have recently seen, the Warrant Committee has seen for the first time this spring, a set of financials from the Medfield State Hospital Master Planning Committee. Those financials lead to significant questions about what should be built up there and when. And the Medfield Park and Rec building is dependent upon the infrastructure that is present in the Medfield State Hospital area in order to make economical building. The total infrastructure would serve both the buildings up there and a potential Medfield Park and Rec facility. So there is a question about the timing of that. The second option is at the Dale Street site. You just saw Superintendent Marsden put up a slide that said that's likely to be ready in August of 2023. That's quite a bit down the road. So let me suggest that given the massive load on town finances this year, $2 million increase in the school budget, $1 million for the Dale Street feasibility study, $250,000 for ALS, $150,000 for master planning, that if we can hold $150,000 for a year or so, it may be a wise thing to do. One thing I would ask you to think about is to think about preserving the socioeconomic strata that we have here in the town today. 23% of our town have family incomes below $75,000. 23% of the town. We need to ensure that those folks are equally as well served by our tax rate as are others in the town. So let me suggest that I think this is a year in which we can delay the Medfield Park and Rec building and be helpful in holding the tax rate down to the degree possible.
Okay. Questions or comments?
Mel Siebold, Park and Recreation Commission. The Parks and Recreation Department mission statement is to supply affordable recreation opportunities for the residents of Medfield. Unfortunately, we're not doing that now. We haven't been doing it for decades. We heard Jerry Potts here last night talk about stress that students are under. One of the great ways to alleviate stress are through exercise, recreational activities. We have no programming for high school students because of our lack of facility space. We have one program for grades 7 through 8, and that's a middle school ski trip. We have a limited program for adults and virtually nothing for seniors. We heard the town administrator last night referred to the FAF Center as a dump. The commission actually, Mike, feels that you were too kind. We will stipulate also that it's an old and dilapidated building. Anyone who's been in the FAF Center, it doesn't really need that's engraved in your mind walking through there. And don't go in the basement. The commission's main concern is health and safety of people in that building. It's one thing, yeah, we don't have the space, we need more space. I think there's a consensus that says we need a new building. However, from a health and safety standpoint, I have a report given to the selectmen in 2008. It's from the, excuse me, it's the findings and recommendations from the Medfield Capital Planning and Finance Committee. I believe this committee was the precursor to the Permanent Building Committee today. Tim and Bonfatti and Tom Merritt can tell me if that's correct. Basically, their findings, they concur with a study that was done 6 years prior in 2002 that said there are significant issues with the site and the structure at the FAF Center. And those issues are hazardous materials in the building, including asbestos, PCBs, and lead. Significant non-compliance with handicap accessibility, lack of a fire sprinkler system, plumbing fixtures in need of replacement due to age and code requirements and efficiency, and limited parking, traffic, and circulation problems. Their conclusions were that, of course, that Medfield Park and Recreation provides important developmental programs to the citizens and that the space is inadequate. They also say that rehabbing the FAF Center would not be cost effective and would be basically a waste of resources, town resources. So with that said, we would ask, we're going about this in a phasing, 3 phases. The initial phase is to site it. We'd like a disinterested third party to tell us where the best site is for this facility to be located. This is very similar to the process and the approach that was taken with the public safety building in their quest to build a building. It would be 3 steps. The first, a site feasibility study. The next would be a design construction, and then finally building funds. So I think we've been putting off this issue for years now in this town. It's every bit as important as educating our students in this town, providing these type of opportunities. There's a reason our teenagers for decades have called this town Deadfield. Okay, if you want to see the teen center during the weekends, go down to the Papagino's parking lot or one of the playground parking lots. You see where the kids congregate to basically make plans to go off. Same thing in the summertime. We need to be addressing the needs for all Medfield residents. That's not being done. So we would ask that we move this motion and start us off in this first phase, long overdue, and we appreciate your time and the concern of our constituents who have done quite a bit of work for us, and also the work that that members of the warrant committee have done. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you, and to the commission as well. Thank you very much. Microphone number 2.
Rod Tatro, 12 West Street, Park and Rec Commissioner. I just want to address a couple things. I was listening to the selectmen meeting last week, and Mr. Michael Marcucci says often that there's no good year for this. And I've lived in town now for 15 years. When we first moved here, our kids were 2 and 3 years old, and we had a great time in the swim pond. But they soon outgrew that swim pond, and the Park and Rec facility did not accommodate our needs as soon as they got to Dale Street and beyond. One of the things that Jack Wolf mentioned in his dissenting report is that we have residents here in Medfield with limited financial ability. And our job as a community is to educate everybody. And that's through our public schools and through our public park and recreation facilities. And we are not in the business of privatizing this, so that is not acceptable and not accessible for students and adults and teenagers who can't afford it. We are one of the only programs that can provide programming and needs for all residents of our town. Thank you.
Thank you. Microphone number 1.
Laurel Scotty, 10 Green Street. We've all known that this year is the year we have to bite the bullet. And $150,000 isn't peanut change, but compared to what other expenses are, Parks and Recs deserves the money. And to suggest that we take them out of one dump and put them into Dale Street, which they're calling a dump, doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. So a new building's needed.
Thank you. Microphone number 2, please.
Hi, Kelly Wysocki, Derby Lane. I just have a question, and maybe I'm missing something here, but 2 articles ago, we voted on the $1 million fund. Then we voted on the feasibility study for Dale Street, which is supposed to be $1 million, but we could get $384,000 back
Correct.
from MSB. Why couldn't we use that $384,000 for this $150,000?
Selectman? Mike?
My understanding is it takes about 5 years to get it back, so if you want to wait, you could do it. But we're still waiting for the boiler reimbursement on the Wheelock School boiler, which was finished about 2 years ago.
Meredith Chamberlain, 10 Pleasant Street. So according to page 45, the total operating budget recommended by the warrant committee is $62,859,653. Is that correct? That's what's in here, or around that figure, right? So if you're talking about saving $150,000, if you do the math and you use that number, it is 0.02%. So I really don't think actually moving Park and Rec forwards $150,000 is really what's hitting our tax dollars.
Okay, final comments. Microphone number 2.
Hi, Jennifer Hearn, Hawthorne Drive. I just want to point out that a rec center is not just good for kids, it is good for everyone. It's good for adults. I'd like my husband to be able to meet people and play basketball. It's good for seniors. They offer amazing programs. And one thing I think is really important to consider if you're going to talk about dollars and cents is to think about what in town can make money. The rec center, if we have a new rec center, it can generate potentially a lot of money. And also, if we're allowed to rent it out to other towns and facilities and parties and things of that sort. So, it's just a thought I'm not sure. At one meeting, how much was it that you guys had projected you could potentially make? Wasn't there a number, Kevin? Was it a couple million? Am I wrong? Could be wrong.
Kevin Ryder, Director of Park and Rec. We feel that a new rec center conservatively could generate about $1.7 million.
Okay.
Conservatively. And that we just finished the last fiscal year with the FAF Center as our source of revenue. We generated $717,000. That is... That is roughly 70% increase since 2012. And we have also increased participation in our program since 2013 by almost 90%, and our summer camps have increased in just the last 2 years, thanks in large part to Dr. Marsden and the school committee, 80%. So, I mean, we are servicing a large number of people, and this $150,000 would just start the path towards what we feel is a much-needed utility for Medfield.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Microphone number 1.
Tom Tate, 3 White Street. There was a note in the booklet here that said last year town meeting appropriated $60,000 to fund a study for Parks and Rec. Did we spend that? Did that get spent?
The $60,000 that was appropriated last year was not from the tax levy. It was actually expended from our revolving account. So we spent that money out of our revolving account. We felt that the need for the program study was that important that we offered to pay for that first step ourselves. That was completed earlier back in the fall. The total cost came in at about $56,000. And their recommendation, it was a firm out of Chicago, and their recommendation was, as you might imagine, that the FAF Center is not good, and that a new recreation facility should be built in the town.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I guess the numbers are kind of boggling to me because I'm old, but am I the only one that thinks $150,000 is a lot of money? I mean, I agree that the PATH Center needs replacement, absolutely, and especially for a group that can generate revenue. I think that's terrific, all right? But $150,000 to go tell us it's an old building? I mean, guys, come on.
To be clear,
I guess I don't know what the money's going to do.
the $150,000 is going to tell us that that's an old building. I can do that for free right now.
Right.
The building was
You're
built in
on.
1929.
It's old.
Every time it gets rain, we get water inside. You know, Mr. Quinlan had talked about water being one of the worst things for a building. I can show you that evidence tomorrow morning if you want to come down to the FAF Center. The $150,000 will get us a proper site in town. It will also eliminate a number of sites in town that people have opinions about that could be potential for a park and rec facility. This $150,000 will do traffic survey, will do utility surveys. It will tell us the exact proper site and also give us a preliminary cost estimate for that building. So we can come with you with hard numbers and not say, maybe it's going to be $8 million, maybe it's going to be $12 million. This will give us a path towards the exact cost so that you guys have the exact information needed to go forward.
Of course, as Jack said, we may discover that that site is up on hospital property, too.
That would be one of the sites that would be like that, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Kevin, stay right there. Okay, final 3 comments, final 4 comments. Please keep them brief.
Okay. Hi, I'm Eugenia. I'm 17 Trailside Road. I just want to say that both my kids, they don't do anything in Medfield because there's nothing in Medfield to do. Like, my kids go on Walpole, they go to Millie's, and that's money that I could be very happy to spend with you, and I'm always there trying to see if we can have programs, and the answer is always, we don't have time, we don't have space, we don't have money, so I think it's time for us to invest in that. That's all.
Thank you. Microphone number 1.
Tom Caragliano, former Park and Rec Commissioner. It was my initiative with Heidi Opel. We went to Joanne Sprague years ago, if you remember, on this town floor. And we got the hospital property, the sliding hill. It was in committee, came out of committee, it had a bill number, and guess what happened? They closed the hospital, took it away. We got it back. Back then, we also had the school and the senior expansion the same year. And by 3 votes, we missed out on a field house that the Park and Rec, Kevin was here with us, and we quantified it. And he's quantified it again tonight. We quantified that we would raise almost as much for free cash as well as paying the bonds. And we're going to put up a building that would make the 4 Kicks look like a closet. We had promises in writing, and we would have raised almost $500,000 free cash annually every year, and all the expenses made. We're even better suited now to do it even better. The kids run in the gym in the high school, they run in the basement. We don't even have a facility for the high school. That's a shame. We built that senior center that year for $387 a square foot, and we did the site preparation. We were going to do it for $130 a foot. So think about what we can do. You talked about Lot 3. I was on the EDC way back when we were working with Basili and we got that property. That Lot 3 out there on Ice House Road. Well, we had a facility that could really make this town do very well financially. So think about doing that. And then also, we would be addressing all the ages with something like that, which we need, and that's what the National Park and Recreation Association recommends, that all ages and all families, because families are a full-time job, and it's rewarding, and you do it with your kids. So let's think about doing it. And thanks to the Park and Rec, they do a great job.
Thank you, Tom.
Justin Ziegler, Vinebrook Road. I'd be hard-pressed to imagine anyone's against a new Park and Rec building at all. I mean, I feel like I run it out of my driveway half the time as it is. But the question I have is that we're appropriating $150,000, and yet there's some unknown numbers associated with Hospital Hill, and yet that's one of the sites where presumably an architect and an OPM might be looking at. If we appropriate this $150 now, and then the numbers come out and look a little ugly or look counter to what the assumptions are of this initial study, have we spent that $150 for nothing if that all of a sudden is moot? Especially in a tight year like this year.
So when we talk about the state hospital property as a potential site for a Park and Rec facility, we are not talking about the main campus with the buildings and everything. We're talking about across the street, south side of Hospital Road. I always tell people when I talk about it, where the sledding hill is, but we're not taking away the sledding hill. We look at it, if that is the site, and this is by no means what we're saying is the site, as a gateway to the fields at McCarthy Park that we also maintain, kind of making it a go-to place for recreation in Medfield, where we are already up there with our fields, we can be there with our camps, and we can make better use of those fields throughout the year. So it's not about going to the state hospital or anything that the state hospital committee is doing. This would be across the street from the main campus.
And just to clarify, if something comes out in these numbers that are maybe made public, I guess, in the future, that renders anything, if there's nothing that would happen in that will render this study moot. I mean, I'm wondering what the cost is of delaying for a year, not because I don't want it, but because I'm wondering what the problem is.
The cost of a delay? Well, we've been delayed for about 20 plus years. So every year it's been another year. The cost could be that Mike Quinlan showed a slide about what Jerry McCarty had said in his 20-year plan. In that 20-year plan, in the initial phase, there's almost $2 million of repairs needed at the FAP Center. That just is to repair. That doesn't add space. That doesn't give us a gymnasium. That is just $2 million in repairs that needs to be done just to make us up to code. So what are we doing if we delay this another year? Next snowstorm we get in December or January, I might not have a roof. And that's what the delay could do.
Thank you. Mary, final comment.
Mary Garnett, 123 Granite Street. I think that the Park and Rec absolutely deserves a new building. I do want to say, though, that, and it showed last night, many of the townspeople are still in favor of a privately owned sports facility. And I have 7 youngsters in my family that are running around constantly to places outside of town for all of their sports events, 4 Kicks or whatever. I think that people are still interested, and I do think that it was evidenced last evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see if we could do both somehow.
Okay, we're ready to advance the motion. The motion is to appropriate $150,000 for the owner's project management and architect for park and recreation facility. This, like all of these articles, is going to be contingent upon, subject to? You want to comment?
It wouldn't be a deliberative night unless somebody played devil's advocate on a couple of issues. I'd like to make a couple of comments, not to really change your mind, but to just ask you to think about a couple of things. The selectmen voted 2-1 against this article, not because we're against the Park and Rec facility, but at least in my case, I had some serious questions about timing. If you've been keeping score, we're closing in on consideration of $3 million in override dollars this coming year. That will represent something bordering on a 10% increase in your taxes. So the first thing I would like you to think about, the comment about $150,000 not being that much against the big budget is fair, but another $150,000 on a $3 million potential total override is kind of significant. As long as you're aware of that and you're okay with it, then that's good. The other thing I'd ask you to think about is this study is taking a look at where this facility should be positioned. In my view, that's a strategic question, not grounded on technical analysis of particular sites. It's actually a decision that ought to be figured out by a townwide master planning effort. And so if we're going to go down this path, you have to ask yourself, and then when you get the answer, is that the end of it? Is that the answer? And now we know where the Parks and Rec facility is going, or are we going to then have a follow-on question that says, let's go back and take a look and see if the master planning committee or whoever it is agrees with it. The third point to consider is if this project moves forward at this particular point in time, consider when the financing for the major construction of this project will fall, and come to your own conclusions of where that maps on to where the financing for the Dale Street School will fall, and ask yourself if you're prepared for that kind of a spike in funding. If you can get past all those and you say, this is an important facility, which it is, and if you're satisfied you've answered yourself on all three of those questions and you're okay with it, then vote. But I at least think you ought to hear why this might not be the best year for this. And I kind of apologize to the Parks and Rec folks for doing this. They knew where I stood, but they've been working hard for a long time. And so this is not an issue of what they're trying to do, and it's not an issue of the value. I'm just suggesting you should think about those three things.
Okay, thank you. Briefly. Jack. You'll get it.
Hello? Thank you. Okay. The first clarifying point is that the $1.7 million is revenues. There are expenses against that. If you look at the projected income statement, they will generate in the out years somewhere in the neighborhood of $400,000 to $500,000 a year. That will be the contribution to the town. It is substantial, but it is not at the $1.7 million range. The second piece is relative to the Dale Street School. There is no thought of using the Dale Street School as the Park and Rec facility. The thought is that that site will be used. There may be a small portion of the Dale Street School that could be used and would be appropriate, but there is no thought of using the Dale Street School, anything close to the way it is, as a Park and Rec facility.
Thank you. Briefly.
I'm sorry, I'll try to be brief. The Park and Rec Commission has been involved in this process for quite a while. We've been working closely with the Permanent Building Committee on this, and we were actually next in line on this until the Dale Street School unexpectedly got accepted into the MSBA. I'm a public school teacher at the town of Needham. I've been on the Public Building Committee for the new Hillside School, which is being built on the site of the Owens Poultry Farm. I'm sure some of you drive by it. I've been on that committee now for 5 years. That school's slated to be open in 2 years for a total of 7 years. It took 7 years to build our new Hillside. And in talking with Permanent Building Committee, that Dale Street School is also projected to be about 7 years out. We feel that as a town that we can build, if need be, both of these facilities at the same time because of what Mr. Quinlan was saying in his statements about Dale Street School, about these public infrastructure projects like the high school, the middle school, and Memorial School coming off our books.
Thank you. No, we're done. We're going to move the motion. I already started it. We're going to move that the town appropriate $150,000, said sum to be raised on the fiscal year 19 tax levy, to hire an owner's project manager and an architect or other design professional to prepare a feasibility study, including a site evaluation, program development, traffic and utility study, and a preliminary cost estimate for a park and recreation facility. Said appropriation be subject to voters' approval of a capital exclusion override pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 21C, again, the so-called Proposition 2.5 override. All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Could I have a show of hands, please? All in favor, please raise your hands. Opposed? Motion carries.